spiritual systems based on your birth. Spiritual systems based on your birthday. Hey, what's your gene key? Never mind, I want to know if you're a manifesting generator. I want to know what your sun sign is. What's your birthday, please? What's your birthday, please? Where were you born, please? Give me your social security number while you're at it, please. I want to know everything about your soul, and that is what I need. That is what I need. It's a spiritual system based on your birthday. 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 Hey, hey. It's Jay.
That was amazing.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. All right. Welcome, everyone. Feel free to come a little closer and get cozy.
What's
Just
that?
to make sure you guys can hear me okay.
I hope that was recorded. That was
How's
good.
everybody doing? Good? Good. Awesome. I know. That's a little wild. Well, I'm really excited to be here today and to do this presentation. I have found this amazing passion in studying these systems. And lately, because I didn't always do this, I started putting them together. And when I was doing readings, mixing the information and weaving in and out of the systems, I realized after studying them that they're all interconnected and that all three of them are basically based on astrology, tropical astrology chart. And you can find placements in your astrology chart within the other systems. So I studied astrology first and learned like the foundational basis. And I love the astrology because it lets you understand your story through the archetypes and learning about the planets, learning about the houses, learning about all the fundamental things about astrology could really be a good foundation for the other two systems. So what I'm going to do today is talk about each of them separately and give you guys like a general idea of what they're about. And then I'm going to cover what is behind them, like what systems they are based off of, and then how you can find the connections between them and how basically they're complementary to each other. And what I love about all three of them together is that they're all like three different languages, three different ways of like saying the same thing about your chart. So to me, the astrology really lays down the kind of the playground, the story. With astrology, you can do so much. You have like a birth chart, which happens to be created the moment that you were born. And it's also based off of the location that you were born. And you can also do so much more with astrology. You can look at transits overlaid onto your natal chart. You can also look at progressions, which basically tell you the evolution of your soul. Based off of the transits and how they're affecting your astrology chart, you can understand how you're being influenced over time. The human design is, to me, more of the masculine one because it's very strategic. Like with human design, it'll tell you whether you're in alignment or not and how to get back in alignment in your life, which is really useful. Because sometimes we like to know the bigger picture or we like to know the detail of what we're supposed to do. Like the question that I get the most is like, what's my purpose? which everybody wants to know that. It's kind of cool though, because in the Gene Keys, you actually do get to find out what your purpose is. But more than that, it's the ability to, with human design, to know whether you're in alignment or not. And I'll describe what that is in a moment. With the Gene Keys, that's the more feminine one. It's very poetic. If you are not familiar with the Gene Keys, it was channeled by Richard Rudd. And he has this amazing book. I call it the Gene Keys Bible. It's huge. Yeah, it's like this fat. And it's so beautiful, just like the language of it. It's very engaging in a way that is more heart. I feel like it's very heart-centered, heart-based. It really kind of takes you into, he calls it contemplation. So this space of like letting the information, letting the channel, the download kind of enter and seep into your energy field, not necessarily giving you like exact detailed answers about things, but making you think about it, like making you contemplate it. So that's why I feel like it's much more of a feminine system. But together, they're amazing to use because you can really find your alignment. So let's begin by talking about human design. So human design was also a channeled system by Ra Uru Hu. I believe he channeled it in the 80s. I don't know exactly which year. But he had this really intense, like 7-day, and I can't remember how many days, experience where he went into like a trance. And it happened in Ibiza. Yeah, right? And and he channeled like human design. And so there's like this aspect of all of these things that, you know, we always ask ourselves, like, how real is it? Like, how much is it? Like, can you prove this? You know, everybody wants to know, is this provable? And what I have seen and discovered is that when I do readings for people, they're like blown away by how accurate the information is. So to me, that's the proof that people feel resonant with it, and it makes sense, and it makes people come to a place where, like, their whole lives they could be wondering what's wrong with me. That's like the biggest question we have, like, what's wrong with me? But the truth is, there's nothing wrong with you, and you are perfect in your design. And understanding your design is the best way to, again, get back into alignment. It's all about getting into alignment. And that's really where my passion is, because once you find yourself knowing the information of all the 3 different systems, you actually can work with it in practical ways in your life. So, human design. Human design, the first thing that it tells you is the type that you are. And there's 5 different types. And the types in human design have to do with how your aura works, which is really cool and fascinating information for me. So there's projectors, there's generators, there's manifesting generators, manifestors, and reflectors. The aura of projectors, which are about like 20% of the population, is penetrating and absorbing. So anybody here know that they're a projector? Okay, we got 1, 2, 3. Really? Cool. All right. So being a projector means that when you're interacting with people, your aura is literally going into other people and receiving information naturally without you even trying. So it can feel quite overwhelming if you don't know that it's happening, because it doesn't ever turn off. So you have to learn how to kind of work with, it's like all these are gifts, right? These are kind of like psychic gifts for us, sensing gifts for us. So if you're a projector and you know this information, it'll help you to understand, like, okay, maybe because I am so sensitive being around so many people, I do need a little bit more time for myself, or knowing that you need to have very clear boundaries energetically with people and your environment. So that makes projectors very sensitive, but also the reason why projectors have a penetrating and absorbing aura is because they are the guides of the world. And I'll tell you in a little bit a story about when they came into existence, when they started to be born, projectors started to come onto the planet. And it's kind of like the reorganization of the energy. So projectors have this very powerful ability to see what is kind of not in alignment in someone, very clear information that can help help the person or the client to kind of realign themselves. So that's really why the projectors are really good guides. And they're really good listeners too, because they're just like always receiving information. The generators and the manifesting generators. Anybody, who's a generator here? Anybody know? Okay, we got, these are, and then who's a manifesting generator? So you guys have the same type of aura, the different types, and you guys form 70% of the population. So most people on the planet are generators and manifesting generators, and they're also described as the builders. So these are the types that, as long as they're really doing what they love, they'll have like infinite amount of energy, like the Energizer Bunny, to go, go, and go. And they're here to really be hands-on, really hands-on. Then there's manifestors. Anybody here a manifestor? Those are a little bit more rare. And the manifestors, so let me talk about the aura of the generator and manifesting generator first. So the aura of the generators is enveloping. So essentially what your aura is doing is like it reaching out into the environment, just naturally fills up the space, and it's like feeling into things. So always has to respond, because the strategy of the generators and manifesting generators is to respond. So when you walk in a room, you're responding to the environment. That's how your aura works. It also fills up the room, and it can be intense for other people around you. It's like you're big. You know, there's like a big energy to the generators and manifesting generators. Okay, then the manifestors, they actually have a closed and repelling aura. So the manifestors are actually the only type that is able to move through the world and literally, generally, do what they want, actually manifest the things that they want. So if they have like a desire, their aura is like a bowling ball that just goes and like hits the pins out of the way, and it's like it's going towards its goal. So it's very, very powerful to be a manifester, because most people are not, and most of the other types, pretty much all of them, have to wait for something, like wait for a response or wait for an invitation as a strategy. Like, but the manifestors don't have that. All they have to do is just inform, like let people know I'm going to be doing this, or I'm going to go do this, and then just go do it. And it's almost like the path just kind of clears if they're in alignment. And then we have the reflectors, and reflectors are only 1% of the population, and they don't have any defined centers. These shapes here are called the centers, and when they're all in white, they're undefined. When they're colored in, they're defined. So a reflector is going to have a chart that looks like this, but including these two white, undefined. The whole thing has no defined center. So if you feel into the energy of that, it's almost like a leaf. It's like the air kind of can blow through in a way. And that's what reflectors pretty much are here to do. They are here to reflect the environment. So essentially there would be like one reflector per community. And if you go to the reflector, you'll know exactly what's going on in the community. Like they will tell you everything just by the way they're behaving, just what they're doing. Like if the one reflector is like an addict or something, you're like, you got something wrong. But you see what I'm saying? It's like they're just reflecting what's going on in their environment. That's a crack a joke there. So that is the different types. So the strategy of projectors is to wait for the invitation. The strategy for the generators and manifesting generators is to wait to respond. The manifestor strategy is to inform, and the reflector has to wait an entire moon cycle, like a whole 28 and a half days, to like see how they feel. Oh, rare, but it's actually really cool. You know who's a famous reflector? I think he is, yes. And Teal Swan. You guys know who she is. She's also a reflector. All right. The other thing that human design gives you is a profile. And the profiles, it's like you're a 2-4 or like a 4-6. If you've seen the chart, you kind of understand. There's 6 different numbers that make up the combinations of the profiles. So if you have a line 1 in your profile, that's described as the investigator. If you have a line 2, that's described as the hermit. Line 3 is the martyr. Line 4 is the opportunist. Line 5 is the heretic. And line 6 is the role model. So the combination of numbers that you have give you insight into, from the lens of human design, that's where you find like personality, gifts, life path, and the balance between the mind and the body. Human design has there's a huge aspect of human design focused on your body, because human design also kind of splits the energy of a person into a personality and a design side. And the personality side is kind of like the mind and the awareness, and it can be influenced and it can be conditioned and it can change. But the design side represents the body, and it's like set. It's like, I like to say the design side is like your hardware, and the personality side is like the software. So like you can upgrade the software, but you can't change the hardware. Like it is what it is. So that's why a lot of the authorities, the different types of authorities in human design have to do with the body. Like, what is your body telling you? For example, you have like sacral authority, which is your body literally tells you yes or no. Then you have emotional authority, which is you have to trust your feelings. And if you trust your feelings, you will always know the right decision and the right choice to make. And there's many different types of authorities, but they all have to do partly with listening to what your body's telling you and paying attention and being aware. All of us love to be in our heads. A culture and a society that like teaches us that being in our head is like how we're supposed to make decisions. It's how we're supposed to interact, like how, everything is like so much in the head. And so especially when I do readings for like generators that have like sacral authority or even emotional authority, it's a challenge, because it's like your whole life you've thought that you're making the right choices, but in reality you've been going completely against like your actual true design. So nobody in human design has mental authority. Nobody in human design should be making decisions logically. Kind of crazy, right? So we talked a little bit about the centers, but these are the centers. Basically, there's 9 of them. Some of them are defined in your chart and some of them are undefined. The defined ones are the ones that are consistent, and they give you consistency, consistent energy that you can count on. So that's like the basis of like who you are. That's not going to change. But the undefined centers, because they're either undefined or open, and these are all just kind of terms that human design uses. But the undefined / open centers are the ones where you kind of feel like there's a void a little bit. You feel like there's a hole. And what ends up happening is those are the places that you take the energy in depending on the theme. You take the energy in and then it magnifies. So you feel it more than the person that's actually feeling the emotion if you have an open solar plexus or emotional center, right? If you have an open root, you're feeling other people's stress more than the actual person that has the stress. So that's what the undefined centers do. They absorb and magnify the information. So if you think about that, this is my chart, by the way. If you think about that, the more undefined centers you have, the more sensitive you are to the energy of the people around you. And the more you're going to try to like fill in the holes, because you think that you're supposed to define them. You think you're supposed to fill them. So that's, we spend our whole lives trying to define the things that don't need to be defined. And then we ignore the things that are defined, which are the things that we should really be counting on. And that's how you get conditioned. And that's how you end up like, one thing I always say is like, if we could build communities where we could know our children's designs and teach them how to actually strengthen their authority, that's what's going to change the world. We're like adults coming into this information now, so it's hard because we're like hardened into who we've become. So it's a little bit more challenging to undo, because you have to undo, you know, all the ways that you've been functioning that are not really truly who you are, or how you should, or how you're going to function the best or the most like optimally, you know. So that thing that we have to do is very challenging as adults. But if children got to learn from the beginning, wouldn't that be amazing? Oh, let's talk about the incarnation cross. So there's something in human design called the incarnation cross, and this has to do with, it's like human design's version of like, what is your purpose? There's 3 different types of crosses. You can have a right angle cross, you can have a left angle cross, and then you can have a juxtaposition cross. So the right angle cross is the soul chose to have a life that's more like an adventure, and it wanted to kind of play a little bit more. It didn't want to be too restricted by having to like resolve karma. So if you have a right angle cross, you're like one of those books that tells you like, here's the 2 options you can take. If you want to go this route, like jump over to page number 5. And if you want to go this way, like jump over to page 10, and then the story like changes and you can choose. So there's a little bit of more freedom. If you have a left angle cross, well, I'll say one more thing about the right angle cross. You do have to, because of the law of cause and effect, like every effect has a cause. So what you choose to do, you're basically creating karma that later on you're going to have to resolve, whether in this lifetime or in the next lifetime. But you definitely have to resolve it at some point. The left angle cross are people who came here to actually focus on resolving karma. So we all have soul contracts with like everyone in our lives, even like to the smallest, like soul contracts with like all the people on this boat. And to be here at this time together for whatever, you know, there's like a higher purpose. But with left angle cross people, they have to recognize that every relationship, and especially the close relationships, there is always like a major karmic thing going on that is here to be resolved. So they came here to actually focus on that. And what I've heard from people that have the left angle cross is that life tends to feel a little bit heavy in the realm of relationship. And for the right angle cross, it feels there's like a little bit of a lightness to being in the world. And then you have the juxtaposition cross, which is the most rare of the 3. And it has to do with kind of like what Robert was talking about in the podcast that I did with him. He was talking about, I'm just a tram, and that you're on like these train tracks and they're not going to veer off course. So in life, you're essentially going to really notice it. If you try to get off the train tracks, life is just going to like throw you back on, because there's a trajectory. So it's a very focused, this is what I'm doing and this is what I chose. So you're just like on that track. You're not really going to get off of it. So that is the incarnation cross. There's channels, gates, and circuits in the human design chart. The channels connect centers together. So for example, you have the 5 here. This is the gate. This is the gate. All the little numbers here are gates. And in between the gates, you have these channels. So when you have a hanging gate, you're going to see in your chart, you have a lot of hanging gates. Only half of the channel is defined. How do you get a gate to be active? Well, there's a planet on there for you. So if you have a planet on a specific gate, it'll activate that gate. If you have planets on both sides of the 2 gates that make up that channel, when these 2 gates connect and the channel is defined, it'll define the center on either side. So that's how you get definition, is the whole channel has to be defined, connecting 2 centers together. So for me, I only have 2 centers because I only have one defined channel in my chart, which is the 2343. It's called the channel of structuring. This is actually where the full moon was, by the way.
Which one is it?
2343.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's also a signature and a not self thing with human design. And it basically tells you how you're going to feel when you're like fully living in alignment, and how you're going to feel when you're out of alignment. So for the here we go. For the projectors, we'll start with those. The signature for the projector is success. So essentially, like, there's no like specific detailed definition of what success is, but you will experience success when you are in alignment. When you're not in alignment as a projector, you'll experience bitterness in life. You'll be just bitter. If you are a generator or a manifesting generator, what you experience as a signature, so like when you're in alignment, you experience satisfaction. It's really that simple, joy and satisfaction. And when you're out of alignment, you experience frustration. If you're a manifester, you experience peace or anger. And if you're a reflector, you experience surprise or disappointment. There's other things in human design that get really kind of detailed, so I just hover over them, but there's something called the variables, and it literally tells you what environment is the best environment for you to function in, what type of way of eating food, and possibly what type of food is going to serve you best. It's going to help you heal your body and your body to function optimally. There's your strongest sense, which we could think of it as an intuitive sense that we all have. There's motivation, literally what motivates you. And there are circuits. So the circuits are multiple channels connected together that make a circuit. And depending on the circuit, it's either going to be individual circuitry, it's going to be sensing circuitry, it's going to be collective circuitry, it's going to be tribal circuitry, or it's going to be integration channels. And each one of those has a different theme. So if you have a lot of channels or gates on those specific circuits, you're going to have the influence of those circuits. This is an example of what you would see when you get your chart. It'll tell you your type, your strategy, your signature, your not self theme, authority, definition, profile, and incarnation cross. What's that?
Are you studying for it?
Yeah. Ah, nice. Okay, let's talk about the gene keys. So the gene keys are really cool. The gene keys, your chart looks like this. Everybody has the same, but there's different numbers inside these spheres. And what are inside these numbers are called the gene keys. There are 64 gene keys, and there are 64 gates. And both of those actually are based off of the I Ching. And there are 64 hexagrams in the I Ching. So it's like the information is the same, but different. So it's called your hologenetic profile. And it's made up of sequences. So the first sequence, which you'll see in the green spheres, is called the activation sequence. That one tells you your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose. Basically, what you're here to do, how you're here to evolve, how you're here to shine and radiate once you're like fully in your design. And then what is your true purpose, which is not about doing, it's about being. Purpose is actually about embodiment. A lot of people think that purpose is, what am I here to do? Like, am I supposed to be a doctor or whatever? No, you're not. That doesn't matter what you do. It's how you do it. That's the important part. The gene keys also works with shadows, gifts, and cities. So the shadow frequency is basically the expression of that specific energy. They all have a different theme. That specific energy that takes you to a lower vibration. It doesn't feel comfortable to be in the shadow. When you're in the gift, it's the higher vibrational frequency of that same energy. And when you're in the city, it's like the divine energy. That the cities transcend the shadow and the gift. So it goes beyond like duality, beyond polarity. So what Richard Rudd basically says is that most of our lives, we live within the shadows and the gifts, and we experience glimpses of the Siddhic frequency, the divine frequency, where we feel like expansive, where we feel transcendent. And the more you work on, and the more you understand your chart, what you're gonna notice is that you'll be able to be a little bit more in your gift. But the shadow is always there because the gift actually lives inside the shadow. You can't get rid of the shadow. It's always there, but it's when you find the shadow or when you find the gift, it's always within the shadow. So it's like doing that deep work is actually what helps you find the gift. Facing the fears, facing the shadow, and doing that work is what takes you into the gift frequency. Talked about jinkies and spheres, and each of these spheres also has what we call line keynotes. So if you look at your chart, there's like a number, and then there's a decimal point, and then there's a line, like another number, and it's always going to be between 1 and 6. And these deeper line keynotes have to do with just taking the information and specifying it a little bit more. So it's not complicated, but every single one of these spheres in this chart has 6 different options for a line keynote. And so that's a lot of different specific ways that you can like take that main gene key that's in each sphere and define it a little bit more. With astrology, I talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but these are the cosmic influences. This is the environment. This is the archetypes. This is the transits. This is the progressions, the cycles of life, the evolution, growth. Astrology can tell you what, how, and where in your chart. It's also about hermetic alchemy and alchemizing. And you would have a birth chart that looks like this, that tells you basically like your sun is in a specific sign, your moon is in a specific sign, your north node, your south node, and they're also within this sphere of 12 different houses, which are different areas of life where these planets can reside. So this is like the sign basically tells you the information of what it is. The how is, or the planet is what it is. The how is the sign, and the where is the house. So that helps you to kind of understand. If it's the sun, for me, it's your soul. The sun represents the soul. It's in Gemini for me. So how do I express soul is through this archetype of Gemini. And where do I express it? In the 12th house, which is spirituality. So anybody that has their sun in the 12th house is here to literally have a spiritual life. There's a theme for each of these houses. And that's what astrology can tell you. And it's literally a map, because the minute that you're born and this is set, the clock starts ticking in the progressions, and the soul starts evolving, and it starts going through different experiences. So it's your soul chose this moment, and then the clock starts ticking, and the story unfolds. So what's behind each of these systems? So human design takes the astrological positions of planets at birth, at the time of your birth, that's your natal chart, and it calls it the personality. And it also takes the positions of the planets 88 days before you were born, and it calls it the design. Human design is also based off of the I Ching and the hexagrams, which I mentioned. The Kabbalah, that has to do with the channels and the circuits. Physics, and there's this concept of neutrinos, which I'll read you the definition. Neutrinos are unusual particles that carry infinitesimal amount of mass. Human design says that as these neutrinos pass through our body, they leave information. And essentially, we are imprinted at the moment of birth by the information carried by the neutrino stream via the planets. And this imprint is reflected in your human design chart. So it's kind of like if you feel like the energy passing through and there's a physical thing, so it kind of gets stuck and then it continues moving through. Kind of like that. It's kind of what it's describing, this aspect of the neutrinos. And then it also works with the 7 chakras and also the 9 centers. So human design states that up until 1781, we were 7-center beings. When projectors came onto the scene in 1781, they introduced 2 new centers, which was an evolutionary leap in humanity as a whole. We went from being 7-centered beings ruled by the spleen, which is instinctual, and ruled by fear, to nine-centered beings, which is ruled by the solar plexus, that's the center right here, and greater emotional and mental awareness. The history behind the different types is actually really interesting, so I'm going to tell you that. The first beings on the earth were the reflectors, and they were living in harmony with their environment, kind of like Garden of Eden type of thing. I also think of Lemuria when I think of reflectors, just like at one with their environment. Remember, they are the ones that have no defined centers. Then came the manifesting generators, who were able to begin to manipulate and work with the environment. For example, whereas someone who's just kind of like Buddha nature, like just kind of at one with it all, is different than someone who is very active with the physicality of the environment, like moving things around. For example, thinking like, okay, if I want to, like paying attention to the cycles, and it's like, so when I want to eat this food, this fruit grows during this time, so that's the time we're gonna pick it. And then also like, oh, if I kill this animal, like if I hit this animal with a rock, it'll die, and then we'll be able to eat it. So it's a different energy, right? The reflectors are more like this, like, oh, like kind of presence, just like they're just supposed to be. The manifesting generators are much more active. And then they split into generators and manifestors. And it was during this time in history that manifestors found themselves able to begin to control the generators. So the manifestors became the kings and the queens and the generator, because remember, the generators are 70% of the population, and manifestors are much more rare. So they are able to, they're good at managing things. So they became kings and queens. They kind of took power, and the generators became the peasants or the subjects or even the slaves in some cases. For most of our recent history, these hierarchical models have ruled the world until 1781, when the projectors came onto the scene. So we evolved into nine-centered beings, so you see the nine centers here, and took on a more evolved consciousness. The projectors came to essentially help guide the generators or the builders to embody their design of being channels of the life force energy of the planet. And instead of being used as slaves, find their own purpose and alignment with their design. This also goes for the manifesting generators, the manifestors, and even the reflectors, who are only 1% of the population, who in our modern world can feel very, very lost. Generators and manifesting generators, like I mentioned, make up 70% of the population. So if all generator types were to fully embody their design, the world would drastically change. Because remember, the signature of the generators is satisfaction. So imagine a world of like satisfied people instead of a world of like frustrated people. It would totally change everything. If all of humanity was living their design, the world would be filled with satisfied generators and manifesting generators, peaceful manifestors, surprised and awe-inspired reflectors, and successful projectors. And the harmony, creativity, and flow that would come from that would be amazing.
Question.
Yes, please.
Can you ever be so close to the border that you would be a blended two? Or would it be
It's not like that. It's not like astrology. Yeah, so astrology, they call it the cusp, but honestly, my belief in that is that you're either here or there. You're not in between. So there's like a meaning to the 0 degree, and there's a meaning to the 29th degree, but you're either 0 or 29. You're not both. So yeah, no, once it's set, you're not going to be on the cusp of a different type. Yeah, once it's set, it's set. You chose it. Apparently we did.
Why was there another center in 1781?
It was just the evolution of the human beings. So when he got the download, he actually got it after that had already happened.
So you're saying projectors are more evolved?
Not necessarily more evolved, but they just have a different way of functioning. They just came to play a different role in the evolution of humanity. It's almost like when the energy needs to be reorganized, how are we going to reorganize it? When it gets to a point of chaos, how are we going to reorganize it? I feel like that's what the projectors are really here to do. But if they're living in their design, because a lot of projectors, the projectors are like the most conditioned types. So they actually really struggle growing up. Like I always felt like there was something totally wrong with me because projectors don't have energy centers defined. So essentially they get tired easy. They're not supposed to work like anything that's kind of like a 9 to 5. They work in little spurts the best, but the generators can go on and on and on like all day long. So it is really awkward to live in a generator world as a projector when most people are like, you can't like go and do all this stuff. So projectors definitely had a difficult time. I know I did growing up. Yeah, you guys feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, I feel like I fit more under the projector than the manager.
We're not able to hear.
Like in terms of what you were able to give us in description wise.
She says she feels more like a projector than a manifesting generator. Well, there's a thing where some channels are called projected channels, some channels are called manifested channels, so you may have a lot of projected channels in your design and therefore feel that energy.
Okay.
Could be that. Yeah.
I have the book and I've gone through it, but not enough to, only enough to be dangerous. Yeah,
Danger.
there's a 55 in there.
Yeah. So the gene keys is based on the I Ching, with each hexagram representing a unique gene key and its associated themes. It also works with the astrology positions. It's the blueprint based off of your birthday, and it's tropical astrology, like all three of them, tropical astrology. It's the biological understanding of DNA and its function, including codon rings and programming partners. And then astrology, we have zodiac signs that are made up of 30 degrees each, the analysis of the position of the planets, and the angular relationships and aspects between them, the house systems representing the different areas of life. I'm going to talk about all this stuff, but the planet, archetypal influences, and the mythology and hermetic alchemy, and then the retrogrades and the movement of the planets as they travel through the sky. So what do they all have in common? This chart is actually really cool because it shows you that according to the human design, so on this side you see the personality side, you see all these numbers. So if you know the symbols for astrology, it'll be easier to read this. But basically this is the sun, the moment of birth. This one is the earth, the moment of birth, the moon, north node, south node, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And then 88 days before you were born, this is where the planets were. So the first number is in human design is the gate. In the gene keys, it's the gene key. And the decimal number next to it is the line. So it's like the gate and it's on a specific line. Or it's a gene key and it's got a specific line keynote. And you can see here, this is my chart, if my sun is on the 35th gate, where do we find that in the human design chart? It's right here in the throat center. What about my earth? It's on the 5th gate. The 5th gate is right over here in the root center. The 63rd gate, so my design sun is right here in the head center, and the 64th design earth is right here in the head. And then you can see the outer wheel. Do you see the signs and the numbers? So basically that's where the gene keys are. This is a set thing. This is like where they live. So that's how you can find them. Like every gene key is connected to a specific astrological degree. So that's why when you say like, oh, the sun is on the 23rd gate, that's because it's passing through those degrees where that specific gate or gene key is at. So that's how you can do the transit readings of the chart. But it shows you where the positions are, right? So you see the sun right here. That's personality sun over here. It's in Gemini on the 35th gate. You've got design sun over here in Pisces on the 63rd. You've got personality earth over here on the 5th. and design Earth over here on the 64. And so it's Gemini, Pisces, where is it at? Sagittarius and Virgo, and those are all the mutable signs. So can you tell it's a cross? That's the incarnation cross. When it says your incarnation cross is this, that's what it's talking about, that cross between those 4 planets or positions. Yes.
What's the significance of
Just a moment. Talk to the
Oh,
microphone.
yeah, good
otherwise
idea.
you're-
What is the significance of the 88 days? Did I miss
It's the cycle of Mercury, the planet Mercury. And
Okay.
Mercury is a really important planet. He kind of, if I was going to say what I feel about Mercury, he kind of rules astrology. Because Mercury is Hermes, Thoth, it's the Hermetic alchemist. He represents Hermetic alchemy. So for some reason, that was significant. But that's where the 88 days comes from. It's a good question.
I have a question. What is this tool that you use to generate this?
Oh, this is Maya mechanics.
Maya mechanics. And it brings all 3 of them together.
Yes,
Wow. It's cool to look at it.
I know.
Like, whoa.
Did it already exist, or did you have to create it yourself, like in the way?
This is the program. I generated it in a program called Maya Mechanics.
Okay, I didn't know if you had to come up with the program yourself.
So when you asked me for my birthday at the beginning, you put it into Maya mechanics.
I did, yeah.
So you know everything.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, let me show you something else that's really cool. In your gene keys chart, do you remember those numbers? The 35th, the 5th, the 63, and the 64, that's my incarnation cross in human design. Well, guess where it is in your gene keys? 35, 5, 63, 64. That's your activation sequence. So whenever people ask me, because there's not that much information about incarnation crosses in human design, and when people ask me, what is it? How do I learn more about it? I go to your gene keys. Because there's so much here. Like one sphere can take you like 5 months to contemplate, you know? So you have so much information about, and it's literally your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose. So that's where they kind of live within each other. And that's how I do it. I honestly, it's like once I found out that they're all based off of astrology. The Gene Keys in Human Design is based off of the I Ching and the hexagrams. And I understood like the foundation of it. And I just started like being like, oh, getting curious and jumping around the different charts. And that's how I was born, to just like look at all of it, to do a reading, because I felt, okay, if I, for example, I'm a projector and my strategy is to wait for the invitation, right? And my signature is success or bitterness if I'm not living in alignment. Well, if I'm experiencing bitterness, I know I'm not in alignment. Whatever I'm experiencing in that moment is telling me I'm not in alignment. So I have to like process that, and I get to choose like, okay, what is it? How do I deal with this? And then you can go into the shadow frequency and be like, what is the shadow that I'm experiencing here? How can I transmute this shadow into a gift and not be in that like shadow frequency, right? And then with the astrology, it's kind of like little pieces of yourself, like little facets of yourself. All of it is, but with astrology, it's like, I feel like it's like personality, like split into this chart, and you can like find the little pieces of yourself and find more insight into like who you are, what you truly desire. That's Venus. How you get the things that you want. That's Mars. You know, what's your destiny? North Node. South Node, where do you come from? Your emotions and how you process emotions. That's the Moon. How you think and how you express yourself. That would be Mercury. What's your core wound in terms of astrology? That's where Chiron is. So that's basically what I started doing, and it was really well received. And it helps because some of these will work for some people. For example, some people are very strategic and they really like tell me what to do. You know, like what do I need to do? Like, oh, okay, well, you're a manifesting generator, so you need to make sure that you're always waiting to respond. You have emotional authority, which means you need to pay attention to your emotions. Right? So like there's specific things that human design can give you. But if you want to explore the world of like dreams and more of like that feminine aspect of it, meditative aspect of it, contemplation, that's where you go to the gene keys. And yes, so oh, this chart is actually really cool too. You could I'll let you guys take a snapshot of this like after, but basically this is the chart that tells you where all the gene keys are, where all the gates are. So over here you've got degrees, and over here you've got, these are all the mutable signs, this is cardinal signs, this is fixed signs. So for example, remember mine was the 35th, my sun was on the 35th, so it was in Gemini, so I'm going to find Gemini, and then I'm going to look over here, where's 35? 35 degrees of Gemini is, or no, it's not at 35 degrees, sorry, my sun is at 13 degrees of Gemini, so it's right here in between 11 and 17, and so the gene key is the 35. So that's how it works. It's really cool to have this chart. And so gene keys is the more feminine aspect, more spirit guided, receptive, yin. Human design is more masculine. It's more kind of mental, more strategic, very yang. And astrology to me is a little bit more neutral. It's the body and it's the magic playground. So in conclusion, using all these systems really does give you a complete picture of all the aspects of your unique design, and knowing all three systems allows me personally to easily flow between them, tuning into what information is most needed, and also allows me to uncover the hidden, the missing, and the complementary aspects within the systems and within the personality. So that is what I have for you guys. And thank you. Thank you. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
And you just
Talk
book a
to
reading
the
like that.
microphone.
Oh, sorry. So how do we book a reading with you?
Oh, my website. I can post the link.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Specific information.
He's gonna bring you the mic.
How much specific information do we need for you to be able to put all of our aspects together with the three systems?
Great
Like-
question.
like the
Just
lotus.
need your date of birth, your time of birth, and the location.
Location, so longitude, latitude.
Like the state and country that you were born. The same information that you input to get your astrology chart. Same thing. It'll pull up all three different charts.
Y'all are laughing like something's gonna happen. Jesus. So question, going back to the gene keys. One more before.
Before?
Yeah. No. The one where you had all of them together on the hexa. Yeah, the pretty one. So okay, so the on that one, the gate numbers don't correspond to the gene keys. The gene keys are the inner ring, right?
Yeah, they do. So,
Oh, so it's like number 30. So like 63 is also the 63rd gene key,
yes.
and then it's got the 0.4 talking about the fourth line from the gene
Yes.
key. Got it. That's so fascinating. Yeah, that's I'm intrigued.
Did you have a question?
Yes.
In that diagram, where you have the two triangles on the top, the square, the diamond, you know how what it sounded like is that they represent the different chakras or the different centers of the body. Can you point out which one each
Yeah,
means?
so this one's the head center.
Uh-huh.
It's about the pressure to make sense of life. It's the pressure that comes from above. So like from the divine, like it's the pressure to understand why we're here. It's kind of the crown. This one is the ajna. So it's about thinking and processing thoughts and processing information. This is the throat, which is in human design, the center of manifestation. Every to get to the throat, it's like a main place. The word's not coming. But yeah, it's like central. It's like central city. But it's, the hub. Everybody wants to come to the throat because this is where it comes out into this is the expression, the manifestation. The G center is the center of identity. The sacral center is the energy center. So it's about life force energy. This one's the spleen, and it's about instinct and intuition. This is the root, which is about the pressure. It's like there's two pressure centers, one on the bottom, one on the top. So this is the pressure coming from underneath, and this is the pressure coming from above. So this is the pressure and stress to deal with life. And then the last one, well, not the last one, this one's the solar plexus, which is emotions. And this one is the will center or the ego center, which is about willpower.
Thank you.
Quick question. Can you repeat that one more time about what it means if they're opened or closed? You said we should focus on the ones that are filled in.
Yeah. So the defined centers are the ones that are colored in.
Yes.
Those are consistent for you, consistent energy. Okay. So that's basically what you can count on. Okay. If you try to like hold on to something from the other centers, it's gonna like slip out of your hands because you can't define it. So those are the places where you absorb and magnify energy around you. These are like kind of psychic gifts in a way. So if you have an undefined solar plexus center, you're empathic basically by nature because you're taking other people's emotions and then magnifying. So you might feel more emotion than someone who's actually feeling emotion. It's quite intense. Yes.
When I try to input my location and gene keys, and I've done it before, I just try it again. Like I'm from a tiny little town, and the closest match it can get is the capital city 2 hours away from me. How does that impact my reading?
To do that, yeah. I have to do that before with people.
No.
It doesn't impact it much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that information is still, for the most part, accurate and can be trusted to be relied on, even though it's not pinpointed.
If you think about the relationship between that and the earth, and it's like 2 hours away.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
The same with time. Is it the same with time? So I think I'm born at 11:32, but it might be like 12. So I'm curious if that would affect it greatly.
That would be, the time is a little more important. But what I do in those situations, I will start with the astrology, and I'll look at the whole 24-hour period, and I'll see how many planets changed signs during that 24-hour period. Like, because some planets can be at 29, and then in 3 minutes, they go into the next sign. So if a lot of planets change signs, then it's going to be less accurate. But if most planets stayed right where they are for that 24-hour period, then it's okay to be like 30 minutes off. Yeah, a good question. Anything else? No? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Yes. And feel free to ask me questions around. I'm here.
We got chocolate.